The first time I saw her, I thought I was looking in a mirror. Standing across the crowded premiere after-party, champagne flute in hand, was someone who looked exactly like me. Same auburn hair cascading in loose waves past her shoulders, same emerald eyes, same delicate bone structure that had graced magazine covers for the past 5 years. Even the way she held herself, with that practiced poise that comes from years in front of cameras, was identical to mine. I blinked hard, certain the stress of filming my latest thriller had finally gotten to me. But she was still there when I opened my eyes, now turning slightly to reveal a profile that could have been traced from my own headshot. The resemblance was so uncanny that several people at the party were doing double takes, their gazes ping-ponging between us with obvious confusion. "Vivienne, darling, you look like you've seen a ghost," my publicist Claire whispered in my ear, appearing beside me with her usual ninja-like stealth. She followed my stunned gaze across the room. "Oh my God. Who is that?" I couldn't answer. My throat had gone completely dry. The woman, my double, was now surrounded by a small crowd of industry people, all clearly fascinated by her presence. She was laughing at something someone had said, and even her laugh was mine. That same melodic sound that had charmed talk show hosts and co-stars alike. "I need some air," I managed to croak, setting down my untouched champagne and pushing through the crowd toward the exit. Behind me, I could hear Claire calling my name, but I didn't stop. I needed to get out of there before I completely lost my mind. The cool Los Angeles evening air hit my face as I stepped onto the terrace overlooking the city lights. I gripped the railing with both hands, trying to steady myself. In 10 years of acting, I'd seen plenty of strange things in Hollywood, but nothing had prepared me for this. Doppelgangers were supposed to be myths, weren't they? Urban legends about people meeting their exact doubles somewhere in the world. "Excuse me, are you Vivienne Frost?" I spun around to find a young man with tousled brown hair and intelligent dark eyes approaching me. He was holding a phone, and my heart sank, thinking he was another fan wanting a selfie. But something in his expression seemed different, more concerned than starstruck. "I'm sorry, I don't really want to take pictures right now," I said, forcing a polite smile despite my inner turmoil. "Oh no, I'm not looking for a photo. I'm Ryan Cooper. I work for Entertainment Weekly. I was actually hoping to ask you about something rather unusual." He paused, studying my face carefully. "There's someone inside who looks exactly like you. I mean, exactly. It's the most incredible thing I've ever seen." My stomach dropped. If reporters were already noticing, this was going to become a story whether I wanted it to or not. "I haven't seen anyone who looks like me," I lied smoothly, falling back on years of media training. Ryan raised an eyebrow. "Really? Because you just ran out here looking like you'd seen a ghost. And everyone inside is talking about the mysterious woman who could be your twin sister. Or rather, who looks more like you than you do, if that makes sense." "What do you mean, more like me than I do?" "Well, she's got this, I don't know how to describe it, this magnetic quality. Like she's the platonic ideal of Vivienne Frost, if you know what I mean. Everyone's gravitating toward her. Even your boyfriend seems pretty captivated." My blood turned to ice. "My boyfriend? Ethan is here?" "Yeah, I saw him talking to her about 10 minutes ago. Looked pretty intense, actually. I thought it was weird that he was talking to someone who looked exactly like his girlfriend, but," Ryan trailed off, seeming to realize he was venturing into uncomfortable territory. I didn't wait to hear the rest. I pushed past him and strode back into the party, my mind racing. Ethan wasn't supposed to be here tonight. He'd said he had an early morning meeting and needed to stay in. The fact that he'd shown up without telling me, and was now talking to my mysterious double, felt like more than a coincidence. I found them in a quiet corner near the floor-to-ceiling windows, their heads bent close together in conversation. Ethan's back was to me, but I could see her face clearly. She was even more unsettling up close, not just because of the physical resemblance, but because of how she carried herself. She had this confidence, this luminous quality that seemed to draw light from the room itself. As I watched, Ethan reached out and touched her arm, a gesture I'd seen him make with me 1,000 times. But there was something different about it now, something more intense. She looked up at him with those emerald eyes, my emerald eyes, and smiled in a way that made my chest tighten with an emotion I didn't want to name. "Ethan," I called out, my voice sharper than I'd intended. He turned, and for just a moment I saw something flicker across his face, guilt? Surprise, before his expression smoothed into his usual charming smile. "Vivienne. There you are. I was just meeting well, this is going to sound crazy, but I was just meeting someone who looks exactly like you." He gestured to the woman beside him. "This is Sophia Laurent." "Sophia, this is Vivienne." Sophia extended her hand with a smile that was both warm and somehow calculating. "It's such a pleasure to meet you, Vivienne. I'm a huge fan of your work. The resemblance is quite something, isn't it?" Her voice was like mine too, but with a slight accent I couldn't quite place, French, maybe, which would match her surname. I shook her hand, noting that even her grip was familiar, firm but not aggressive, the handshake of someone comfortable with attention. "Yes, it's remarkable," I said carefully. "Are you an actress as well?" "I'm just starting out, actually. I moved to Los Angeles 6 months ago from Paris. Tonight is my first real industry event." She glanced around the room with what seemed like genuine wonder. "I can't believe I'm here, surrounded by all these incredible artists." There was something about her answer that felt rehearsed, though I couldn't put my finger on what. Maybe it was the way her eyes didn't quite match the innocence in her voice, or the way she seemed to be studying my reactions to everything she said. "How did you get invited to this premiere?" I asked, trying to keep my tone conversational. "Oh, I have a small part in Christopher Anderson's next film. Nothing major, just a few scenes, but he was kind enough to invite me tonight." She touched Ethan's arm again, that same casual gesture I'd witnessed earlier. "Your boyfriend was just telling me about your latest project. It sounds fascinating." I looked at Ethan, whose expression had gone carefully neutral. "What project was that?" "The thriller you just wrapped. The one about the woman who thinks someone is stealing her life." His smile faltered slightly. "Though now that I think about it, that's a pretty weird coincidence, isn't it?" A chill ran down my spine. The film he was referring to was called Stolen, and it was about a successful woman who becomes convinced that someone is systematically taking over her life, her job, her friends, her identity. The parallels to what was happening right now were too close for comfort. "Life imitating art," Sophia said with a laugh that sounded just a little too knowing. "Though I suppose in our business, the line between reality and fiction gets blurred all the time." "Scarlett," I called out, my voice sharper than I'd intended. He turned, and for just a moment I saw something flicker across his face, guilt? Surprise, before his expression smoothed into his usual charming smile. "Vivienne. There you are. I was just meeting well, this is going to sound crazy, but I was just meeting someone who looks exactly like you." He gestured to the woman beside him. "This is Sophia Laurent." "Sophia, this is Vivienne." Sophia extended her hand with a smile that was both warm and somehow calculating. "It's such a pleasure to meet you, Vivienne. I'm a huge fan of your work. The resemblance is quite something, isn't it?" Her voice was like mine too, but with a slight accent I couldn't quite place, French, maybe, which would match her surname. I shook her hand, noting that even her grip was familiar, firm but not aggressive, the handshake of someone comfortable with attention. "Yes, it's remarkable," I said carefully. "Are you an actress as well?" "I'm just starting out, actually. I moved to Los Angeles 6 months ago from Paris. Tonight is my first real industry event." She glanced around the room with what seemed like genuine wonder. "I can't believe I'm here, surrounded by all these incredible artists." There was something about her answer that felt rehearsed, though I couldn't put my finger on what. Maybe it was the way her eyes didn't quite match the innocence in her voice, or the way she seemed to be studying my reactions to everything she said. "How did you get invited to this premiere?" I asked, trying to keep my tone conversational. "Oh, I have a small part in Christopher Anderson's next film. Nothing major, just a few scenes, but he was kind enough to invite me tonight. She touched Ethan's arm again, that same casual gesture I'd witnessed earlier. Your boyfriend was just telling me about your latest project. It sounds fascinating. I looked at Ethan, whose expression had gone carefully neutral. What project was that? The thriller you just wrapped. The one about the woman who thinks someone is stealing her life. His smile faltered slightly. Though now that I think about it, that's a pretty weird coincidence, isn't it? A chill ran down my spine. The film he was referring to was called Stolen, and it was about a successful woman who becomes convinced that someone is systematically taking over her life, her job, her friends, her identity. The parallels to what was happening right now were too close for comfort. Life imitating art, Sophia said with a laugh that sounded just a little too knowing. Though I suppose in our business, the line between reality and fiction gets blurred all the time. Vivienne, there you are. Claire appeared at my elbow, slightly out of breath. I've been looking everywhere for you. We need to talk about the Variety interview tomorrow, and, she stopped mid-sentence as her gaze fell on Sophia. Oh my God. I know, Sophia said with apparent good humor. Everyone's been having that reaction all night. We could be sisters, couldn't we? Claire's eyes darted between us, her publicist instincts clearly on high alert. Has anyone taken photos of you two together? Not yet, I said quickly. And I'd prefer to keep it that way. Actually, Sophia said, I was hoping we might be able to get a picture. It would mean so much to me, and I think it would be quite the sensation on social media. Imagine the buzz, Hollywood's most beloved actress meets her perfect double. The way she phrased it made me uncomfortable. Why was she so eager for photos? And why did she seem to know exactly how to play the media angle? I don't think that's a good idea, Claire interjected smoothly. Vivienne has a very carefully managed image, and unexpected photos can sometimes complicate things. Sophia's smile never wavered, but I caught a flash of something harder in her eyes. Of course, I understand completely. Perhaps another time. We should probably get going, Ethan said, checking his watch. Early morning tomorrow, right? I nodded, though I was surprised he was ready to leave so soon. Usually, he loved these industry events and would stay until the very end, networking and soaking up the atmosphere. Tonight, though, he seemed almost eager to escape. As we made our goodbyes and headed toward the exit, I couldn't shake the feeling that Sophia's eyes were following us. When I glanced back, she was indeed watching, that enigmatic smile still playing on her lips. She raised her hand in a small wave, and the gesture was so familiar, so much like something I would do, that it made my skin crawl. The drive home was tense. Ethan seemed lost in thought, his usual chatter replaced by an uncomfortable silence. I kept stealing glances at him, trying to read his expression in the passing streetlights. So, I finally said as we pulled into our driveway, that was weird. Yeah. Incredibly weird. I mean, what are the odds? She looked so much like you that for a second, I actually thought you were playing some kind of prank on me. What did you two talk about for so long? Ethan parked the car and turned off the engine, but made no move to get out. Nothing much. She was asking about the industry, how things work here. Typical newcomer questions. He paused. She seems really smart, though. And ambitious. Something in his tone made me look at him more closely. Ambitious how? I don't know. Just, she has this energy about her. Like she knows exactly what she wants and how to get it. He finally looked at me, and there was something in his expression I couldn't quite read. It's actually kind of familiar. Familiar how? Like you. When I first met you, you had that same hunger, that same drive. Remember? I did remember. 5 years ago, I'd been the hungry young actress willing to do whatever it took to make it in Hollywood. But something about the comparison bothered me. It felt like he was suggesting that Sophia had something I'd lost, some quality that made her more appealing than the woman I'd become. Over the next few days, I tried to put the encounter out of my mind. I had the Variety interview to focus on, followed by a photo shoot for Vogue in preparation for my next role. My life was full and demanding, leaving little time to obsess over strange coincidences. But Sophia Laurent, it seemed, wasn't ready to fade into the background. The first sign was a text from my agent, Nathan, on Thursday morning. "Call me ASAP. We need to talk about something urgent." I dialed his number while I was getting my hair done for the photo shoot. "What's so urgent that it couldn't wait until our meeting tomorrow?" "There's a video going viral on TikTok. Someone filmed you at the premiere on Monday night." My heart sank. "What kind of video?" "That's just it, it's not you. It's that woman who looks like you. But everyone thinks it's you, and they're going crazy over it. The video has 3 million views and counting." I felt the blood drain from my face. "What's she doing in the video?" "Just talking to people at the party, but I don't know how to describe it. She's magnetic in a way that's almost unsettling. People are commenting that you seem different, more alive somehow. Some are even saying, 'This is the best you've ever looked.'" My stylist, who had been listening to my side of the conversation, gave me a concerned look in the mirror. I forced a smile and mouthed work drama to reassure her. "Nathan, we need to do damage control. Can we get the video taken down?" "I'm working on it, but these things have a way of spreading faster than we can contain them. The bigger problem is that there are now rumors flying about who this mystery woman is. Some people think you have a secret twin sister. Others are speculating about body doubles or some kind of publicity stunt." I closed my eyes, feeling a headache building behind my temples. This is exactly what I was afraid of. There's more. I got a call this morning from Christopher Anderson's office. Apparently, Sophia Laurent has been making the rounds, using her resemblance to you as a calling card. She's had meetings with 3 different casting directors this week, and word is she's incredibly impressive. She's using my face to get meetings, essentially. Yes. And the thing is, it's working. I'm hearing she might be up for the lead in that new HBO series everyone's talking about. The one you turned down last month. I had turned down the HBO series because the timing conflicted with a film I was more interested in. It hadn't seemed like a big deal at the time, there would always be other opportunities. But the thought of Sophia sliding into a role that had been offered to me first felt like a violation. "This is insane, Nathan. There has to be something we can do. I'm exploring our options, but it's tricky. She's not technically doing anything illegal. Having a resemblance to someone isn't a crime, and she's not claiming to be you." After hanging up, I sat in the styling chair, staring at my reflection in the mirror. Was I losing my mind? Or did I actually look less vibrant than usual? There were dark circles under my eyes that makeup couldn't quite hide, and my skin seemed to have lost some of its usual glow. "You okay, honey?" my stylist asked gently. "You seem stressed." "Just work stuff," I said again, but the words felt hollow. The Vogue shoot was a disaster. I couldn't focus, kept missing my marks, and the photographer, a temperamental genius named Pierre who had shot me dozens of times before, finally threw up his hands in frustration. "Vivienne, darling, where is your energy today? You look beautiful, as always, but there's no life behind your eyes. We need passion, fire, something." His words echoed what people were saying about Sophia's viral video. She had life, fire, passion, all the things I apparently lacked now. It was maddening. That evening, I did something I'm not proud of. I created a fake Instagram account and started following Sophia's social media. What I found made my blood run cold. She had already amassed over 500,000 followers, more than I'd built in my first 3 years in Hollywood. Her feed was a carefully curated mix of behind-the-scenes shots, inspirational quotes, and glamorous selfies that showcased our shared features. But there was something else too. She was wearing clothes similar to mine, styling her hair the exact same way, even using the same filters I favored. One post in particular made me feel physically ill. It was a photo of her at a coffee shop I frequented, sitting at my usual table, drinking what looked like my signature order, an oat milk latte with a double shot of espresso. The caption read, finding my favorite spots in this beautiful city. Dizzy. I scrolled through the comments, my heart sinking with each one. You look just like Vivienne Frost. Are you related? Even more beautiful than the original. New favorite actress. The word original stuck with me. As if I was the copy and she was the real thing. I was still spiraling when Ethan came home. He found me on the couch, laptop open, staring at Sophia's Instagram feed like it held the secrets of the universe. Are you okay? He asked, setting down his gym bag and coming to sit beside me. Does it bother you? I asked without looking at him. Does what bother me? That she looks like me but seems to be better somehow? Ethan was quiet for a moment too long. Vivienne, you're being ridiculous. Am I? Because you seemed pretty captivated by her at the party. And everyone online is saying she's more vibrant, more alive than me. That's just social media nonsense. You can't take that seriously. But you do find her attractive, don't you? I finally turned to look at him, searching his face for the truth. His hesitation told me everything I needed to know. She looks exactly like you. Of course, on some level, I find that attractive. But it's you I'm with, Vivienne. You I love. The words should have been reassuring, but something about his tone felt off. Like he was trying to convince himself as much as me. Over the next 2 weeks, Sophia's presence in my life became impossible to ignore. She kept popping up everywhere, at industry events I attended, at restaurants I loved, even at my yoga studio. Each time, she'd greet me with that warm smile and act like we were old friends, completely oblivious to how much her presence disturbed me. Or maybe she wasn't oblivious at all. Maybe she knew exactly what she was doing. The situation came to a head at a charity gala I was hosting for a cause close to my heart, children's literacy programs. I'd been planning the event for months, had called in favors from every connection I had to make it a success. It was supposed to be my night to shine, to show Hollywood that I was more than just a pretty face. Sophia showed up uninvited. I spotted her across the ballroom, wearing a dress nearly identical to mine, the same emerald green that matched our eyes, the same elegant silhouette. It was as if she'd somehow gotten access to my fitting notes. She was surrounded by a crowd of admirers, including several people I'd specifically invited as my guests. How did she even get in here? I hissed to Claire, who looked equally horrified. I have no idea. She's not on the guest list. I'm going to have security escort her out. No, I said, grabbing Claire's arm. That'll cause a scene and make me look petty. Just, let me handle this. I made my way across the ballroom, forcing myself to smile and greet guests along the way, even though my heart was pounding with a mixture of anger and anxiety. By the time I reached Sophia, my face hurt from maintaining the fake smile. Vivienne, she exclaimed, as if genuinely delighted to see me. What a wonderful event you've put together. I'm so honored to be here. I don't recall inviting you, I said, keeping my voice low enough that only she could hear. Her smile never faltered. Oh, I came as Christopher Anderson's +1. He's been such a mentor to me. I hope you don't mind. Of course, it was Christopher. He'd been one of my biggest supporters early in my career, but lately, I'd been too busy to return his calls or meet for coffee. Now he'd brought my doppelganger as his date to my event. How thoughtful of him, I managed through gritted teeth. You know, Sophia said, lowering her voice conspiratorially, I've been meaning to reach out to you privately. I know this whole situation must be strange for you. It's strange for me too. But I was hoping we could maybe be friends. We have so much in common, after all. There was something about the way she said it, we have so much in common, that felt like a threat rather than an olive branch. I don't think that's a good idea, I said flatly. Oh, that's a shame. Because I really think we could help each other. She paused, her green eyes, my green eyes, studying me with an intensity that made me uncomfortable. This town can be so lonely, don't you think? Especially for women in our position. We're always competing, always being compared to others. But you and I, we could be allies instead of rivals. We're not rivals, I said firmly. You're a newcomer with a few small roles. I'm an established actress with a decade of work behind me. There's no comparison. Something flickered in Sophia's expression, a crack in her perfect facade. Not yet, maybe. But give it time. Before I could respond, Christopher appeared at her elbow. Vivienne. Fantastic event. You've really outdone yourself. He put his arm around Sophia's waist in a gesture that seemed too familiar. Have you two had a chance to get acquainted? When Sophia first walked into my office, I thought I was hallucinating. The resemblance is truly remarkable. It certainly is, I said coldly. I've been telling everyone that Sophia is going to be the next big thing. She has this raw talent, this hunger that reminds me of you when you first started out. He smiled at both of us, seemingly oblivious to the tension crackling between us. Maybe you two should do a project together. Imagine the buzz, Hollywood's hottest actress and her mirror image in the same film. I don't think so, I said, my patience finally snapping. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to give my speech. I walked away before either of them could respond, my hands trembling with barely suppressed rage. The speech I'd prepared, a heartfelt plea about the importance of literacy and education, felt hollow in my mouth. I went through the motions, hit all the right notes, but my heart wasn't in it. All I could think about was Sophia standing in the crowd, watching me with those knowing eyes, wearing my face like a mask she'd stolen. The event raised a record amount of money, and by all accounts, it was a huge success. But all anyone wanted to talk about afterward was Sophia. How gracious she was, how charming, how much potential she had. It was as if I'd become invisible at my own event. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed next to Ethan, listening to him snore softly, and felt more alone than I had in years. My phone kept lighting up with notifications, articles about the gala, social media posts, all featuring photos of Sophia instead of me. In some shots, we were both visible, and it was eerie how much we looked like mirror images. Except in every comparison, she seemed to glow just a little bit brighter. At 3 a.m., I gave up on sleep and went to my home office. I needed to understand what was happening, needed to find some explanation for this impossible situation. I started Googling Sophia Laurent, digging deeper than I had before. Her story was surprisingly sparse. A few mentions in French entertainment blogs about a model who'd done some commercial work in Paris. A couple of theater productions in small venues. Nothing that would explain how she'd ended up in Los Angeles with a role in a Christopher Anderson film. On a whim, I ran her photo through a reverse image search. Most of the results were recent, from the past 6 months, matching her timeline of arriving in LA. But there was one older image, buried deep in the results, that made me freeze. It was from a small casting agency website, dated 3 years ago. The photo showed a woman who looked similar to Sophia, but not identical. Her features were close to mine, but not quite right. The nose was different, the jawline less defined, the eyes a different shape. The caption read, Isabelle Moreau, available for commercial and theatrical work. I clicked through to the agency's page, but Isabelle Moreau's profile had been deleted. However, a cached version of the site still existed, and I was able to pull up her full profile. According to the information there, Isabelle had been struggling to find work, booking only minor roles over several years. I sat back in my chair, my mind racing. Could Sophia and Isabelle be the same person? And if so, what had changed? How had she gone from looking similar to me to looking identical? The answer, when it came to me, was so obvious I felt stupid for not thinking of it sooner: plastic surgery. I spent the rest of that sleepless night researching plastic surgeons in Los Angeles and Paris. By dawn, I had a theory that made my stomach turn. Sophia Laurent, or Isabelle Moreau, or whoever she really was, had deliberately undergone surgery to look like me. She'd studied my face, my features, and had herself reconstructed to become my mirror image. But why? And how had she afforded it? Good plastic surgery wasn't cheap, especially the kind that could transform someone from merely similar to virtually identical. I called Nathan at 7 a.m., knowing he'd be up. I found something. Can you meet me at my house in an hour? When Nathan arrived, I showed him everything I'd discovered, the cached profile of Isabelle Moreau, the timeline of her transformation, the evidence of plastic surgery. This is insane, Nathan said, scrolling through the images on my laptop. You think she had surgery to look like you? I don't think it, I know it. Look at these before and after photos. The nose, the jawline, even the distance between her eyes, it's all been altered to match mine. But why would someone do this? To steal my life, I said simply. She's been systematically inserting herself into my world, using my face to get meetings, book jobs, and now she's even wearing my clothes and going to my regular spots. It's identity theft on a psychological level. Nathan was quiet for a long moment. Vivienne, this is serious. We need to go to the police. And tell them what? That someone looks like me? That's not illegal. Even if we could prove she had surgery, she could claim it was coincidental or that she just wanted to look like a celebrity she admired. We need more evidence. That evidence came sooner than I expected. 2 days later, Claire called me in a panic. Vivienne, there's been a situation. Someone just tried to cancel your appearance on The Tonight Show using your email address. My blood ran cold. What? The producer called me directly to confirm, which is the only reason we caught it. They said they received an email from your official address saying you had a family emergency and needed to cancel. But I know you didn't send it. Sophia, I breathed. She must have hacked my email. There's more. I checked with your other team members. Someone's been accessing your calendar, your contacts, even your bank information. Vivienne, this is beyond stalking. This is criminal. That was when I knew I had to take drastic action. With Claire and Nathan's help, I hired a private investigator, a former LAPD detective named Marcus Chen who specialized in cyber crimes and identity theft cases. What Marcus uncovered over the next week was chilling. Sophia Laurent didn't exist. The name was an alias created just 6 months ago when Isabelle Moreau arrived in Los Angeles. Isabelle herself had a history of obsessive behavior. She'd been fired from 2 modeling agencies in Paris for harassing more successful models. She'd maxed out multiple credit cards to pay for the plastic surgery, borrowing money from loan sharks to complete her transformation. But the most disturbing discovery was a storage unit Isabelle had rented in North Hollywood. Marcus obtained a warrant, and what we found inside made me physically ill. The walls were covered with photos of me, hundreds of them, going back years. My filmography printed out and annotated. Articles about me with certain phrases highlighted. There were printouts of my social media posts, receipts from restaurants I'd visited, even parking stubs from my gym. She'd been tracking my every move for at least 2 years, just as she'd admitted. But there was more. In the corner of the storage unit was a mannequin dressed in an exact replica of the dress I'd worn to the Oscars last year. There were wigs styled like my hair, makeup palettes with notes about my preferred colors, even voice recordings where she practiced mimicking my speech patterns. This is a case study in obsessive identity theft, Marcus said, photographing everything. She hasn't just been copying you, she's been trying to become you. With this evidence, we finally went to the police. Detective Sarah Park took our statement and examined the evidence Marcus had gathered. This is one of the most extreme cases of stalking and identity theft I've seen, she said. We have enough here for multiple charges: computer fraud, identity theft, harassment, and possibly criminal impersonation. We'll bring her in for questioning. But when the police went to Sophia's West Hollywood apartment, she was gone. The place had been cleaned out, no furniture, no personal belongings, nothing. It was as if she'd never existed. She must have known we were onto her, Detective Park said. Do you have any idea where she might have gone? I had a terrible suspicion. Check my house. When we arrived at my Beverly Hills home, my worst fears were confirmed. The security system had been disabled. Someone with my access codes had turned it off from the inside. The front door was unlocked. Ethan. I called out, my heart pounding. Ethan, are you here? We found him in the living room, tied to a chair with duct tape over his mouth. His eyes were wide with terror. Claire immediately called 911 while Detective Park and Marcus cut him free. She was here, Ethan gasped once the tape was off. Sophia, she came to the door, said she needed to talk to you urgently. I let her in, and she pulled a gun on me. Vivienne, she's completely insane. She kept saying that she'd given you every chance to step aside, that you should have just disappeared gracefully. Where is she now? I don't know. She tied me up about 2 hours ago and then just started going through your things. Your closet, your jewelry, your makeup. She was trying on your clothes, practicing being you in the mirror. A chill ran down my spine. She's still here. Detective Park immediately drew her weapon. Everyone stay back. We heard it then, footsteps on the stairs above us. And then she appeared. Sophia stood at the top of the staircase, wearing my favorite dress, the vintage Chanel I'd been saving for a special occasion. She'd styled her hair exactly like mine, applied my makeup with precision, even put on my jewelry. She looked like me, but there was something wrong with her eyes. They had a fevered, manic quality that no amount of physical resemblance could hide. Sophia, Detective Park said calmly, keeping her weapon trained on her. I need you to come down slowly with your hands where I can see them. My name isn't Sophia, she said, and her voice, my voice, was eerily calm. It's Vivienne. Vivienne Frost. I'm the actress. I'm the star. She smiled, and it was like looking in a twisted mirror. I'm better at being her than she ever was. You're Isabelle Moreau, I said, stepping forward despite Detective Park's warning gesture. I know who you are. I know what you've done. You had surgery to look like me. You've been stalking me for years. Stalking? She laughed, and the sound was chilling. I've been studying you. Learning you. Perfecting you. Don't you see? I've given you the greatest gift anyone could. I've shown you what you could be if you actually tried. But instead of being grateful, instead of gracefully stepping aside, you've been fighting me every step of the way. Because you're trying to steal my life. I'm not stealing it, I'm improving it. Everyone says so. The casting directors, the producers, even your boyfriend. She looked at Ethan with those fevered eyes. He told me I was better than you. More alive, more passionate. He was falling for me until you poisoned him against me. That's not true, Ethan said, his voice shaking. I never said that. You're delusional. Isabelle, Detective Park said firmly, you need to come down now. We can get you help. I don't need help. I need everyone to see the truth. She reached into the pocket of my dress, and I saw Detective Park tense. I need them to see that I'm the real Vivienne Frost now. Time seemed to slow down. Sophia pulled out a gun, the same one she'd used to threaten Ethan, but instead of pointing it at us, she pointed it at herself. If I can't be Vivienne, she said, tears streaming down her face, then neither of us can. No. I screamed. Detective Park lunged forward, but she was too far away. Marcus moved faster than I thought possible, tackling Sophia around the waist just as she pulled the trigger. The gun went off, the bullet lodging harmlessly in the ceiling. They crashed down the stairs in a tangle of limbs, Marcus managing to keep control of Sophia while Detective Park secured the weapon. Within moments, backup arrived, and Sophia, Isabelle, was handcuffed and read her rights. As they led her away, she looked at me one last time. The manic gleam had faded from her eyes, replaced by something that looked almost like sadness. I just wanted to be special, she whispered. Like you. You were special, I found myself saying. You just didn't know it. 3 months later. Isabelle Moreau was sentenced to 5 years in prison for stalking, identity theft, computer fraud, and attempted murder. She was also ordered to undergo extensive psychiatric treatment. The court psychiatrist diagnosed her with delusional disorder and obsessive-compulsive personality disorder, among other conditions. The media had a field day with the story. Hollywood's most dangerous doppelganger, the headlines screamed. My face, and Isabelle's identical one, was plastered across every entertainment outlet for weeks. But something unexpected happened during the aftermath. The publicity, strange as it sounds, ended up revitalizing my career. Directors who hadn't returned my calls in months were suddenly interested again. The authenticity of my terror, my vulnerability during interviews about the ordeal, reminded people why they'd fallen in love with me in the first place. I booked 3 major film roles in 2 months. One was a psychological thriller about identity and obsession, art imitating life in the most meta way possible. Another was a prestige drama with an Oscar-worthy script. The third was a passion project I'd been trying to get made for years. Ethan and I went to couples therapy. The ordeal had revealed cracks in our relationship that we'd been ignoring for too long. He admitted that he had been attracted to Sophia's energy, her enthusiasm, qualities I'd lost somewhere along the way in my pursuit of perfection and image maintenance. But she was right about one thing, he said during one of our sessions. You had lost that spark. Not because you weren't good enough, but because you were so busy protecting what you had that you forgot to enjoy it. He wasn't wrong. I'd been so focused on maintaining my position, on being the perfect actress with the perfect life, that I'd forgotten the joy that brought me to Hollywood in the first place, the love of storytelling, of transformation, of connecting with audiences through emotion and truth. We eventually decided to separate. It was amicable and, honestly, necessary. We both needed space to rediscover ourselves. I threw myself into my work with a renewed passion. The first film I shot after the trial, the psychological thriller, was the best work I'd done in years. The director said I brought a raw intensity to the role that he'd never seen in me before. The trauma of what I'd been through had unlocked something, a depth and vulnerability I'd been keeping carefully hidden behind my polished public persona. I also started seeing a therapist, Dr. Williams, who helped me process not just the stalking ordeal but also the deeper issues it had brought to light, my fear of inadequacy, my obsession with perfection, my tendency to measure my worth solely through external validation. What Isabelle did was horrifying and criminal, Dr. Williams said during one of our sessions. But in a twisted way, she held up a mirror to aspects of Hollywood culture that we don't like to acknowledge, the disposability of actresses, the constant comparison, the pressure to be eternally young and relevant. She also showed me how much I'd been taking for granted, I admitted. I'd become complacent, going through the motions. I'd lost touch with why I started acting in the first place. And why was that? I thought about it for a long moment. Because I wanted to tell stories that mattered. I wanted to make people feel something. And are you doing that now? I smiled. I'm trying to. The film about identity and obsession premiered at Cannes 6 months after Isabelle's sentencing. As I walked the red carpet, I thought about everything that had happened, the terror, the violation, the revelation. A reporter called out to me, Vivienne. How do you feel about the fact that Isabelle Moreau underwent surgery to look like you? Does it change how you see yourself? I paused, considering the question carefully. It made me realize that who I am isn't just about how I look or what roles I play. It's about the choices I make, the relationships I build, the authenticity I bring to my work and my life. Isabelle could copy my face, but she could never copy my experiences, my growth, my truth. That's what makes each of us unique, not our features, but our journey. The film was a critical and commercial success. I received my first Oscar nomination in 3 years. I didn't win, but somehow that was okay. I'd already won something more important, myself back. Epilogue. I visit Isabelle once, 6 months into her sentence. I'm not sure why I feel compelled to do it, but Dr. Williams thinks it might help with my closure. She looks different now. Her hair is shorter, darker. Without the careful styling and makeup, the differences between us are more pronounced. She looks like herself again, or maybe for the first time. Why did you come? She asks, her voice flat. I needed to understand. Why me? Isabelle is quiet for a long time. Because you had everything I wanted. Success, respect, beauty, opportunities. And you didn't even seem to appreciate it. You were just coasting. It made me angry. So you decided to become me? I decided to become a better you. The version of you that deserved all those things. She looks at me with clear eyes now, no more manic gleam. I know how crazy that sounds. The medication helps me see it. But at the time, it made perfect sense. I'd spent my whole life being invisible, getting nowhere. When I realized we looked similar, it was like a sign. I could shortcut all those years of struggle, all that rejection. I could just step into your life. But it wasn't a shortcut. It was a prison. You became so obsessed with being me that you lost yourself entirely. I know that now. She sighs. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. Not just for what I did to you, but for what I did to myself. I had talent. Maybe not as much as you, but I had something. If I'd focused on being the best version of me instead of a copy of you, who knows what I might have achieved. It's not too late, I say, surprising myself. You'll be out in a few years with good behavior. You can start over. As who? The woman who became famous for stalking Vivienne Frost. That's my identity now. That's all I'll ever be. That's not true. You get to decide who you are, Isabelle. Just like I do. We all do. It's the hardest work there is, but it's the only work that really matters. She looks at me for a long moment, and I see something shift in her expression, not hope exactly, but maybe the first glimmer of possibility. I'll think about that, she finally says. As I leave the prison and step back into the California sunshine, I feel lighter than I have in months. The nightmare is over. I'm free, not just from Isabelle's obsession, but from the prison of perfection I'd built for myself. I pull out my phone and call my new agent about that independent film I've been considering, the low-budget passion project with the unknown director and the risky, challenging role. The old me would have passed, worried about maintaining my image and commercial viability. The new me? She says yes. Because I've learned the hardest lesson Hollywood has to offer: you can have the perfect face, the perfect career, the perfect life from the outside, but if you're not authentic, if you're not passionate, if you're not you, then you're just another beautiful shell. A doppelganger of who you could be. I'd rather be imperfectly, messily, gloriously myself. And that's exactly what I intend to do. The end.